Hey there, welcome to ATL on 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chenard. I'm here with Glenn Willis and Tyler Jones recording after a Hawks win over Phoenix on a Friday night and before a massive ice storm. What did you think of the game tonight, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, when the Hawks were able to deal with the Suns' physicality, they were the better team, but there was just a lot of stretches where the Suns were just able to blow plays up just by being bigger. And again, referees have been super inconsistent on what they're calling as fouls. So it's like, whew, it's I mean, it's hard for these Hawks players to figure it out, combined with they're always, not as strong as the opposition. So it was a tough physical game, but I felt like they were the better team throughout, even before Booker got hurt. Uh, but when Booker did get hurt, like the Suns just weren't able to generate any type of real offense. So I like overall like good win, and maybe they can win another one coming up against the Pacers. But yeah, they might have something getting some confidence going. And I think the biggest thing that's new is like Coloco's playing and like he's showing just how important it is to have, a real backup center with some size and length. Because I mean, he made some big plays just being a rim protector. Something the Hawks don't have especially. I mean, they don't have the strength when Okongwu's not in the game, and they don't have length just in general. And Koloko, while he's not that strong, like he provided length and he knows how to play. And like center, I'm gonna keep hammering this to people. Center play, uh, more often than not, is more about the lineups they play alongside, combined with their physical measurements, and can they, you know, properly play the position. And Koloko absolutely can. So uh, on one hand, it does make me feel sad that Nafali Dante's not getting this chance because I think he's just flat out better basketball player than Koloko. But even still, I'm glad that Onsi kind of forced Quinn's hand by leaving Asa at home against the Grizzlies to force Koloko into the rotation just so that he can see that, hey, combined with, I think they had a practice beforehand, but still,
Yes,
just
they
be
did.
like, hey, this guy's a pro. He knows what he's doing. We just need, like, the quality of the player doesn't matter as much as just the role that he plays. And he fills a role that the Hawks have been missing since KP got hurt.
Tyler, it's very late tonight, so yeah, I'm all over the place. And the Pacers are coming to play here Monday, and they just beat Oklahoma City on the road in Oklahoma.
They did. They did. I watched the last like 8 minutes of the game.
What the heck happened there?
They
Digress a
defended.
little bit.
They defended. Yeah, they defended. It was a high scoring game, lots of possessions, but they got. I mean, Rick Carlisle teams they play hard, no matter what kind of form they're in or whatever. They play hard and they compete. They did tonight, so it was impressive what to watch them kind of close that game out.
Wow. All right. So what'd you think about this game, Glenn?
Well, I mean, I'll start with it was fun to watch Dylan Brooks try to be the initiator on offense after Rick Booker went out of the game. I put on X like appreciate his contribution to the effort there. But for me, I think Koloko does add a lot to like Tyler said. I mean, this is a little bit of a kind of a different conversation, but like whenever we talk about centers who play on other teams that could help the Hawks, like always think about just how good like Robert Williams in Portland is, just how good he is at measuring plays, right? Just the feel, the timing, everything. And I don't want to put Koloko on that level. I mean, Robert Williams is really, really good defensively, has more length and a little bit more length than Koloko, stuff like that. But you can tell Koloko's been around the league for a number of years and kind of just knows what he's doing and has a pretty high floor there. Impressive blocks, chase down blocks. He times it well. He keeps his hands high. He stays vertical. Just a lot of the little kind of technique discipline that you want from your backup center. He shows that, and he hasn't been. There's been a couple of shots he's taken where he wasn't shy to kind of take that shot. He had the three against Memphis, and then he had a little baseline kind of turnaround two tonight. So I think clearly he gets the message that when you're open, you shoot it. In that sense. But and the rebounding is good. I mean, he high points rebounds, and things like that. But I do think the fit at power forward is critical because he's not gonna do a lot on offense. They're not gonna run they don't run middle pick and roll like they did, in the Trey era and stuff like that. But he hits offensive glass, and he's a good communicator. He's a good organizer. When he sees a small player is low, he'll go down and scram him out and kind of take that spot. So his processing is there, and I think he's going to be helpful. And if he plays at this level, they can. I know everyone wants to see KP back on the floor because his offensive game is really, really, really helpful. But I think Coloco's presence lets them take their time with him. Like I don't want KP coming back 2 weeks earlier than he should with that Achilles, in that sense. But if you can get 15 quality minutes of Coloco, I think that helps. And I thought this was Onyeka's best game in a while. Onyeka was really good tonight and worked really, really hard, rebounding. Obviously, he, knocked down some threes and stuff like that. We just continue to see the growth of Jalen. Jalen running the offense, and CJ was kind of a nightmare in quarter one on offense. He's really, I put on Twitter that or X that the Suns are great at forcing you into isolation, and they were putting CJ into isolation every time he touched the ball. But second quarter on, he was very helpful. He was more constructive. He got off the ball. He should, all that sort of stuff. So I thought that he was a big part of the offensive play quarters 2 through 4 in that sense, and was a lot better. But for me, I think the most exciting thing is just to continue to see Jalen be aggressive. He's really physical tonight driving the ball. Like when he would drive the ball, he's really physical tonight. And that's something that last year we just didn't really see. So big changes this year. His balance and his physicality with the ball driving to the rim is just completely different from last year. And it's fun to watch him kind of grow in those areas.
Tyler, are we at some point, in a game where it matters? Because it doesn't seem like when you're matching up with Phoenix, it doesn't really matter. But now that you have someone like Coloco and there are other big options, are we going to see Jalen at the three, Onyeka, and sort of one other big, maybe Mo or something like that, where you've got big forwards that you need to guard in a game? Can the Hawks go three big, and will they go three big when it's more necessitated on a night different than tonight?
Um, it's a good question. I hope so, but Quinn hasn't shown a willingness to do that. And um, I'm not, it's just here's my thing with the three big lineup. I think he might do it. Like I think he might consider doing this if KP was playing and it was KP at center next to Okongwu and Jalen.
Okay.
I think that is the only real, like, if I'm just trying to figure out what Quinn's thinking here. I just don't think he trusts Mo on like flat out. He doesn't trust Mo on offense, and he doesn't trust Ace on defense.
Right.
Combined with he doesn't want to put Jalen in a new situation, because we've seen that Jalen's defensive focus level waxes and wanes when he's not in a comfortable position. And I think that they found a nice balance with Jalen. Jalen defensively at the four here overall. But like to me, I think he would do it with KP. But I would I do think in like one possession I need to stop. I do wish Quinn would just get Mo Gay out there defensively. Especially with Ricochet not available. Like just get Mo out there instead of CJ McCollum and put him on it literally doesn't matter. Put him on whoever. So that you just take like the biggest weakness in these close lineups, because we kind of saw pretty much in general the Phoenix Suns offensive game plan the entire night was to attack the weakest defender on the floor. And when the Hawks didn't have a weak defender, when the weakest defender was Corey Kispert, Hawks it was actually pretty good, like because it was like Dylan Brooks tried to overpower him, and that just not going to work because Kispert's a strong guy. And Booker tried to do similar stuff, and again, like Kispert, he has his flaws, but like you're not going to bully him. And so I do think Quinn just needs to just have that in his back pocket. I was fine with CJ closing the game here, just because the Suns are a small guard led team, but and CJ's defense was pretty good tonight. I felt that this was probably the best he's played defensively in a Hawks uniform, so hopefully he can continue this just because um like he does provide shot creation, something the Hawks are sorely lacking on this teams. But I don't think Quinn is ever going to go if he hasn't done it. If he hasn't done it in these last couple months, he's not going to do it going forward, even with Koloko. I don't think it was a I don't have a backup center issue. I think it's more of a I don't trust Asa or Mo fully to do it. So I just don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Glenn, what do you think of now that, while Zachary continues to be out, what do you think of the Corey Kispert starting, CJ McCollum finishing sort of two-headed monster there?
I mean, I think it works well. People are probably going to argue over whether Zach should start when he comes back or Kispert should, Kispert
Whoa,
is,
whoa, whoa, Glenn, what?
yeah, people are, Hawks fans are probably going to argue about that.
Whoa,
Well,
who's
they
no,
shouldn't.
nobody? There's no argument.
Uh,
Respectfully,
I'm not saying
Corey,
we're going to argue about that. I'm saying
Okay.
Hawks fans on social
Okay.
media are probably going to argue about that. So,
based on
And
what?
some of them will be wrong.
This is interesting to me. I'm curious about these Hawks fans. Based on, it's not like Corey Kispert's making shots. What's he doing? Like, I appreciate what he's doing because he's been better than Vit Krejci, but it's not like he's been lighting it up respectfully and defensively. Like, there are real weaknesses with him on defense. But again, he has real size, and that has helped. But like, no, Ricochet started when he comes back. Like that's not even
yeah,
like Kispert.
I'm just
Kispert,
sharing.
Kispert is like I hear y'all Hawks fans, and I'm going to respectfully shut this down now. Kispert is barely playing now, and he's the only small forward size player on the roster at the moment, and he's not even getting 20 minutes a night guaranteed. There's no question Ricochet will be starting playing 25 plus minutes, hopefully, going forward. But like, Kispert's good for what he is, but no, that's not happening.
Yeah, I'm just telling you what I'm expecting. They're like, I don't know. Is it a third of the fan base like hates Zachary Ricochet for some dumb reason? I don't get it. He's a high level processor. He's young. He needs to get stronger. We've talked about this over and over and over. He has good speed and transition. He's good at there are things he does that I think I don't want to say like a casual. I hate that term, right? But there are a lot of there's a lot of nuance to his games that I think that I feel like is not always recognized and appreciated there, especially for a guy his age. Anyway, so but hopefully they can take their time with him a little bit too. The schedule gets a little easier from here on. But for me, I mean, Kispert is a helpful guy. He's probably overpaid for what he gives you, that contract. But he's a high floor wing, who's gonna just kind of be smart and responsible and not do dumb things and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree when Ricochet gets back, he needs to go back in the starting lineup. I think it's good that they have another small forward on the team now that they don't have to go three guards all the time. If Quinn will actually buy into that, and I mean, there's a conversation to be had around like Veet's really not helping right now. I mean, he was like a month ago or 6 weeks ago, whatever, like the first third of the season, he was killing it from three. But he gets hunted on defense all the time now. I didn't understand why Dyson was on Gillespie and Veet was on. I can't remember who he was on there. But
He
didn't
was
quite
on.
understand didn't quite understand that. But and then playing Veet with Kennard, like I mean, Booker's going to go seek those guys. If those two are on the court at the same time, he's going to seek those guys. So for me, I hope Quinn swings more towards more two guard lineups with either Zach or Kispert on the floor at the three, and navigates it that way. But I mean, you can tell Quinn still believes in max ball handling, max shooting, max ball handling, max shooting on offense, and it creates defensive vulnerabilities that other teams know how to go attack.
I will say this about Kispert because of his additional size, it might be an because like to me, and I was at the Grizzlies game. I know we're not talking about the Grizzlies game right now, but like one of my bigger takeaways is, boy, does Jalen get tired. And like it really shows on the defensive end late when he's playing extended minutes and he's asked to do everything he's asked to do on both ends of the floor. Um, like I do wonder if and when they get Ricochet back, if they don't try to get Ricochet at the four with Kispert on the floor next to him, because that's not something they had available to them. Like a big reason why the Ricochet at the four lineups were just terrible is because they had no forwards other than Ricochet. So it'd just
Right.
be like, you know, okay, it's like the center Ricochet, a guard. This lineup is never going to work. Now that we have somebody like Corey Kispert, who can't match up physically with anybody, he can absolutely match up with anybody physically. Can Quinn get Ricochet out there at the four more to take some minutes away from Jalen? Because I don't like how many minutes Jalen is playing, and but he has to play them because they're just not right now. They're kind of not competitive when he's not on the floor, particularly offensively. They kind of lose a lot of juice, and a lot of the issues stemmed from my Mo Asa concern, where it's like again Mo and Asa have their strengths and weaknesses, but I feel like Ricochet is a better basketball player than both of those two are right now. And
Yes.
I think that's a way to get Ricochet more time and Kispert more time when Ricochet comes back is and to get more importantly, not feel like you're forced to play Jalen all the time. And because I do think Ricochet does some things that only Jalen Johnson has shown to be able to do on the floor on both ends. So I kind of that's kind of a lineup I'm hopefully seeing in the next couple of weeks whenever Ricochet comes back.
Tyler, so yeah, you were there in Memphis, and we didn't discuss that game at all on any previous podcast. It's that's sort of in the purview of what we can talk about tonight. What'd you see up close at that Memphis game?
Uh, Luke Luke Kennard was talking a lot of smack, so that was like the biggest thing. I was like,
I feel like
man,
Tyler, I was trying to imagine what kind of white boy smack he was talking. Like how
he
like how was this like
he
Opie
was
Taylor?
get all I know is he had zero respect for anybody trying to guard him against the Grizzlies, and he was letting everybody know it. So that's what he was saying. I don't know exactly what he said, but he was talking. And I mean, he was pretty great in that first half. Kind of kept the Hawks afloat when they were going through their quarterly lows whenever they happened. But you know, I it's like my biggest takeaway was really when the Hawks are the bigger team, and I've said it's multiple podcasts now. When the Hawks are bigger or teams can't match up physically with Jalen Johnson, he's going to dominate. And like that game, he completely dominated the Grizzlies from start to finish. Uh, I know it was a close game at the end, but the Hawks were the better team throughout. There was some weird stuff with how the refereeing decided to call some calls, but overall, I thought the Hawks played well. It was still a little frustrating, but again, you see just how much, just like how size matters. Like Koloko, when he was out there, absolutely shut down the paint for the 11 minutes he was out there. And that's not something that was happening before, the Hawks, and unless Kristaps Porzingis was in the game. So, like, I felt like then and there, I was like, hey, this guy's somebody who can help. Combined with, he's a very good processor on offense. He knows how to run. He knows what the Hawks want to do on offense. He knows how to get from point A to point B as a screener, as a DHO guy. And like that was really impressive. But like overall, like it's kind of the continuing theme. Like the Grizzlies had a lot of injuries, and they just weren't as big or physical. Like they were playing Jaren Jackson at the five, and like the Hawks really took advantage of their lack of physicality, and they were just able to overwhelm them. Again, I know the game got closer at the end, but like it just felt like the Hawks were just comfortable throughout that game, and like uh Jalen's really good. That's spoiler alerts, but like he's really impressive, particularly when he's guarded by smaller players. So it's going to be, I think, and the thing that CJ McCollum can do the best is organizing the offense in a way to get Jalen Johnson matched up on a smaller player to close out a game, because that's what they did with the Suns. They did it with the Grizzlies with with John Morant guarding him one play. Then they did it against the Suns with I think it was Gillespie trying to guard him, and like he's literally too small. And so like I do think that's where CJ shows his worth, where he's like, hey, I can get you switched on to a smaller player. Let's go to work and like simplify the game a little bit to cut down on the turnovers, because the turnovers has been what's been killing the Hawks relatively recently. So I think a more simplified approach to closing out games is good for them.
You mentioned Jalen sort of getting tired in that Memphis game. I do think like there was like a physical like illness thing that got him a little bit those, for a few games before this Memphis and Phoenix game that was dragging him down a little bit. But on that same topic, like where is he defensively? Clearly he's bounced back offensively. Well, what does it look like for him defensively in the last couple of games?
I mean, for
I can
me, I'll go quick and then hand it back to you. For me, they're clearly prioritizing him as a rebounder, right? They're definitely prioritizing him as a rebounder, and
Yes.
you want him in grab and go like that. That basically that football pass he threw, like that one play. I forget who was on the other end of that receiving pass, but basically a full court pass for a layup on the other end. But they're prioritizing that. But he's showing up a little bit more at the rim now, But he is exerting a lot of energy on offense, like a whole lot. But as he continues to mature, I think it's one of those things where, the rebounding defensively helps. He's like has more defensive rebounds than I think anybody in the league, right?
Yep. Sure. He does.
And he has more assists than any forward, and yeah, I think that's
Yes.
right. And so for me, it's one of those things where I think fans might watch him and feel a little frustrated, but I think he has to meter down a little bit on defense here and there just because of how much he's exerting himself on offense. Hopefully the comms are still there, switching still there, rebounding still there, weak side rim protection's there when it needs to be. But it's like one of those things, like they need him to play 35 minutes. He cannot get in foul trouble. He cannot be dumb. I mean, there is a real calculation around making sure he's can play the full allotment of minutes they need him to play, so he's there at the end of the game. And there are trade-offs that coaches and players and make across expectations like that. I think he's been better, but I think when you watch him play, it's like okay, weak side rim protection, rebounding, grab and go. That's really what they want him leaning into because he has to do a lot of work on offense. They spend a lot of energy on offense. Tyler, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna bring up because like that was my takeaway. It was like the third quarter in the Grizzlies game where they kind of gave the game back, and were down like pretty big. Like I was watching Jalen's defense. I'm like, man, this is just he's got to be tired, because like a lot of it is if he doesn't grab the defensive rebound's not getting grabbed. Combined with uh everything he's asked to do on the offensive side of the floor, he's the guy. Like this is his team. He is the guy. And when you're the guy, like you got to be there all the time on the offensive end to keep the wheels on the tracks. So to me, I just think he's got a lot on his plate, and this Ross, especially with KP and Ricochet out, they just cannot afford for him to not be in the game and to not be impactful in the game as well. So, like, to me, I'm like, if you're disappointed with Jalen's defense, and I think we can all agree, like, he hasn't been as good as he could be defensively. But at the same time, I do feel like if this was a more physically gifted team, like if this was a Houston Rockets like team where they're just chock full of forwards, I think we're talking about a different type of defensive season that Jalen's having. But because of the how this roster is oriented, the lack of center play until recently, like I just think there's been too much on his plate, and like it's really had a negative impact on the defensive end. But like, um, I do think he has been better recently. But this is the thing with Jalen, like it's not like he doesn't play good defense. The issue is it's inconsistent, and it's inconsistent in weird in like different type of ways. Sometimes it's, but like currently, I really did feel like, particularly the Grizzlies game, because he was really only bad defensively in that third quarter, but like it's fatigue with him, or it's like or he's trying to pace himself, and so he's like giving up a little bit too often on the defensive side of the floor. I mean, we kind of saw with the Suns game, like the Suns, every player is diving on the floor, every player. It didn't matter who. Like they're diving on the floor, they're blowing up every screen. They're competing on the glass. They're challenging every defensive rebound. Every defensive rebound, there's always somebody right there to poke at the ball to try to steal one. Uh, Meanwhile, the Hawks, with the ball's on the floor, they're conceding like that, and like that's the approach they have to play with because they don't have the depth. They can't risk in like these guys cannot risk getting hurt for any reason because they know they are like redlining the top end talent at the moment. Like all their good players have to play 35 plus minutes a night just because of the lack of depth in the bench, and they're missing two key starters, et cetera, et cetera. So I just think it's had a knockdown effect on like that the effort, consistent effort, just isn't there overall from this team, and it kind of shows with Jalen a little bit. But like I do think he and the Hawks are doing what's best for uh winning games throughout an 82 game season. But like I would still like to see more focus, more intensity from Jalen defensively. But I do think that could happen if they get KP back, um, just because of how KP is like the only he can actually relieve pressure with his post up ability, with his mismatch ability, like just taking the workload off of Jalen from where it is right now.
Yeah, Kevin, I have a question for you. Do you think, first of all, it'll be interesting to see how much Koloko continues to play, right? He's been good 2 games, right? 2 games. I feel like playing him next to Jalen just takes some pressure off of Jalen to have to do more work defensively. What do you see that, Kevin?
Yeah, I think that's a pairing that they're going to stick with. Like if they're going to play Koloko, you need to have offense and you want to take the load off Jalen. I think that's something that Quinn is going to keep leaning into. I don't think there's any question about that. I was actually going to bring that up before you even asked me. That was going to be my segue to the next question, which now I've completely forgotten. But that does seem like a pairing that they're just going to roll to naturally to just save Jalen a little bit, give him some, oomph as a second person who can high point the rebounds and give him some rim protection. And, Jalen gives the necessary offense to make Koloko viable. So that's you're not going to put Koloko out there with Mo Gay. Like that's just death. Like that wouldn't work.
Yeah, yeah, and then those for how many weeks we saw Jalen on the 4 and Mo were ace at the 5, and it was just like that's just murder. Like that's just not viable at all. And so, I mean, we'll have to check in on like how many games does Koloko have available the rest of the season, those sorts of things. But they might have to get him on a regular contract. I mean, if he's continues to play at this level, they might have to make a roster decision somewhere else to kind of get him on a real contract because he's been I mean, 2 out of 2 games he's been helpful.
Yes, that
Yeah,
is
I mean,
correct.
he's been transformative. Like to me, like this is a it just he just provides something the Hawks literally didn't have, like a tool, a skill set that the Hawks literally didn't have, and like defensively, he's been really good. And to me, I'm like, hey, there's some guys in the back end of the roster who don't play, who it's like respect, but I do think I could totally see the Hawks getting him on a good, they probably want to sign him to a good, contract deal if he continues to play this well because like this is valuable. Like you just need you're always in need of like good bench depth center play just because these guys, that position is so important defensively. And these bigger basketball players we're seeing in this new era are liable to get more hurt than any other position. So it's just like it's important to have depth at that position going forward the next couple of years.
Kevin, can I hijack this for a second and
Yeah, please.
tell me what you saw in Asa in the game at college, this last game at College Park? I think people would appreciate hearing you kind of just describe what he was doing, what role he was in, what was his usage like, what kind of, just give us give everybody kind of a rundown on what you saw from Asa at College Park.
So there were two games, and as soon as he came in to the first game, it was an instant impact just in terms of having a finisher at the rim. Like he was just getting a number of dunks in that first half of his first game. And then, the defense of the opponent adjusted. And in the second half, he was doing some stuff where it was just a lot more craft as a finisher around the rim. Like, and not with his back to the basket. I'm talking about like slow stepping and euro stepping and bring the ball low to finish and to until you get past your man. I forget what the technical term for that is, but there was a very impressive flash of him, handling almost like a guard on his finishes to the rim. In the second game, he did a little bit of everything. One thing about that whole game is that the Maine Celtics were really crazy trying to sort of pressure like outlet passes. After you get the defensive rebound, they're like going after the rebounder. They're trying to get between, the rebounder and the guard to attack that. And so, one thing that was helpful, I don't know if it was because of Maine's game plan or just because it was something they wanted to see overall, but there were Asa definitely had the green light to take a defensive rebound and go a la Jalen Johnson. And just because of the way Maine was playing, it was hard for me to sort of differentiate that, but it was definitely a bigger thing than it would be like in any of his games in Atlanta. Like he wouldn't do that with the Hawks right now, but he definitely had that kind of authority, at least in this game. And, he just a lot more stuff of all kinds. Like he was being used more as a roll man. He was being used more as a low post thing because the other thing about Maine's defense is they were trying to switch everything. And so they, would try to find that one-on-one mismatch. And more often than not, the one-on-one mismatch that they were going for was to try to get Asa against a small in the low post. And that was working. He ended up with, 29 points and 7 assists. So they were playing through him to try to beat the switches. Um, you know, that Maine team was pretty good. Both games, actually, I think both of his games were against Maine. And Maine won both and they were super impressive. But Asa looked like the adult in the room for the Skyhawks in both of those games.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you even see when he plays with the Hawks, it's like his offensive processing. I mean, like he might not be right at 0.5, but he's pretty close. He makes good decisions with the ball. He knows what he's doing. The natural issue with rookies is just the complexity of defense and learning timing, feel, all that sort of stuff. It's hard. You need reps to do that. But I mean, for me, it's like I mentioned like I thought it was a little weird that Asa was at College Park because they were so shorthanded in the front court, but then Quinn actually played Koloko and that kind of covered that gap, in that sense. But I still think he's going to be really good, like really, really good. He needs some time to grow into how does NBA defense work and what are all these veterans trying to do to me and set me up for this and set me up for that. But offensively, it just he's way ahead of schedule in terms of what I had expected this year on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and he's back with the Hawks. Like he didn't play tonight at all, right?
Nope, nope.
Nope.
But he's back with the Hawks, and the Skyhawks are going out like West Coast trip. So, he's almost certainly going to be with the Hawks for the next at least week plus. Like I think, he may go back to the Skyhawks eventually, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. Um, I have a question. I don't know who wants to field it. Well, like I watched these games over the last 2 months, and you know, t I guess it's just about Luke Kennard and his defense. And it's like I think of all the players on the roster, I feel like his defense has the highest like standard deviation. Like one night it looks great, one night it looks like what is he doing? Like am I crazy? I guess is the first part. And the second part is like, how am I going to predict? Is there a pattern in the opponents? How do I predict whether we're going to have a great like Luke Kennard defensive game versus a horrible Luke Kennard defensive game?
I mean, I'll go quick because I know we're short on time here, but for me, it is kind of matchup dependent. If you're playing against a team that's really big, he's going to get hunted. and it's going to be bad, and it's going to be tough. Hopefully, he gives you enough back on offense to kind of offset it, right? That's the thing. Tonight, when Booker went down, it made him much more playable, like for the rest of the game, right? In that sense. But when you go up against a team that plays through their forwards, plays through their front court offensively, and Quinn's rolling out 3 guard lineups, it's Luke and CJ on together. That's rough, and so I think it is kind of matchup dependent, game to game dependent.
Awesome. All right. I thank you for joining me super late at night, and good luck with the storm, and good night, Bob.
Good night, Bob.
Right, Bob.